Okay, welcome to the push video. So, yeah, it's happening. I'm making a video about Push. It is a 2009 movie about psychics, and I freaking love it. It is so good. Please go watch it. I'm going to read you the description. The description goes After his father, an assassin, is brutally murdered, Nick Grant, Chris Evans, before he was Captain America, vows revenge on Division, the covert government agency that dabbles in psychic warfare and experimental drugs. Hiding in Hong Kong's underground, Nick assembles a band of rogue psychics dedicated to destroy Division. Together with Cassie, Dakota Fanning, a teenage clairvoyant, Nick goes in search of a missing girl and a stolen suitcase that could be the key to accomplishing their mutual goal. I'm sat. Hearing that, love psychics, so awesome. They're amazing. Let's get started. So the movie starts with Nick and his dad basically running through a hotel, right? They're very scared, they're very frantic. They are running from something, right? They run past this maid who's like, "Whoa, what's going on? It's weird." She looks at them, then she, turns back around. Miss Girl takes out a walkie-talkie. So, yeah, she's a bad guy. She's a bad guy. She takes out a walkie-talkie, and yeah. So Nick and his dad are running, and they basically run into like this side room, where Nick's dad stops him and says that I've always known you were special. Now I know for sure. And then he basically tells him, a girl with a flower will find you. Very cryptic. Very cryptic. What does that mean, right? And then he says, don't make decisions any watcher can track. What's a watcher? I don't know. I don't know what a watcher is yet. We'll get there. So Nick's dad basically reaches out his hand to like an air vent and pushes it open with his mind. So he's a telekinetic. He can move things with his mind, right? Nick runs through and he finds somewhere to hide, right? And his dad's like, I love you, goodbye. And then yeah, Nick just goes and hides. Cut to this man walking in. He has like a hoodie on, he has glasses on, he's all cool like, right? So he walks into the same room that Nick's dad's in, and then we hear Nick's dad being like, I'm never going back, you can't take me. And then we see a bunch of guards with big pew pews like marching in behind the guy with the glasses, right? And then we hear a bunch of shots, a bunch of chaos happening in the room, and we see the lady, the maid who went in with a pew pew, being like pushed out, and like she basically flies out of the room, and hits like against the wall, right? And then we hear more shots, and then a big boom, and then nothing, and then that's it. And this man walks out alone by himself, and then some guards come behind him. He like does that, shrugs off a bunch of dust that got on him, and he says, "What a waste. Bring his body." What do you mean? What do you mean by that? Bring his body. Take his body for research or something. Cuts to black. Okay. And then narration starts. Love narration. I love it. I know a lot of people don't like narration, but I like it. The Nazis were conducting experiments in psychic warfare, trying to turn those with psychic abilities into soldiers. Lots of us died, the war ended, but the experiments never stopped. Other governments around the world set up what they called divisions, trying to do what the Nazis couldn't, to turn us into weapons. Narration is by Miss Girl, Dakota Fanning, who you will soon find out is Cassie, and she is what they call a watcher. She is someone who can see the future, even if that does not sound that simple. It's very complicated, but whatever. She can see the future. And then she explains some other categories like movers. Movers are people who are like Nick's dad, who are telekinetics. They can move things with their mind. And then there are pushers. Pushers are people that can put thoughts in your mind and can make you do things, which in the hierarchy of power, yeah, yeah. She's a pusher. Yeah. They are superior, I have to say. In the hierarchy of power, pushers are superior. I just have to admit. Cassie's mother. It's her mom. We'll find out that is her mom. She is in a division outpost that looks like a hospital, right? She's in hospital garb, like she's like a patient or something, right? And we see that she has something in her hand. We see from the back that she drops it, and it is a like glass ball that just starts rolling on the ground. Then we see this girl right here, who we will find out is Kira. Kira, love Kira. I love that name, Kira. She is like in. She's laying down on a bed, and someone is injecting her with like this black liquid. Right? She opens her eyes after being injected, and her eyes are completely black, right? And then they go back to being normal. And then she hits the person with like her leg or something and hits them over the head with something. And then she grabs one of the syringes, runs towards the door, and like pries it open by making like the door opening button, like by stabbing it with the syringe. Like she's able to get it open, and she runs out, right? She's running, lights are flashing. We cut to this man who was watching her the entire time. Well, we see him that he was watching her the entire time. um and he says, get her, don't let her get away, we need her, and we need the syringe and everything, right? But she's running, and she sees a door that's slowly closing. She's not going to make it. She is not going to make it towards the door. You can very clearly see that the door is about to close, and she's too far away from it. But she keeps running. And then while she gets there, the ball that Cassie's mother dropped on the floor is pinned between the wall and the door, basically making it so the door can't close. And Kira is able to pry it open with her hands, right? Miss Kira. Love Miss Kira. She's great. And then Mr. Man, which we soon find is his name is Agent Carver, and Victor pop out of the shadows, and Victor's like, she won't get far on foot. But then he says, Agent Carver says, she'll get help from anyone she gets her eyes on. She's a pusher. She can push people. She can make them do what she wants. And then cut to Nick. Cut to Nick. He's just a man. He's just a boy. Nick's just a boy. You know, he is boy is his category. That is what his job is, boy, and gambling. He loves to gamble, which we soon find out. He throws a pair of dice on the floor and he moves it with his powers, right? Um, and it seems like it takes a lot of effort for him, so his powers are probably not that good. You know, that's what it seems like. And then he goes out to gamble, you know, and he's very ready. He's prepared to win by using his powers. He goes gambling and he basically loses bad. And the people that he was gambling with before he started were like, "Hey, bestie, you know you owe these people a lot of money, and you owe me a lot of money. Are you sure you want to gamble?" And he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And he loses. Like Nick is not good with his money. Um, so they try to beat him up, and he just runs away as fast as he can. Um, and then we cut to him going into his house, into his apartment, I should say, because it's Hong Kong, the city, and not people don't really have houses there, because unless you're like rich, I think. I don't know a lot about Hong Kong. But yeah, he gets stopped by Agent Holden, right here. Agent Holden, put him right there, and Agent Mac. Agent Mac, put him Right there. Right there. I'm actually gonna put them on this side because I feel like they have more to do. They have more to do with Kira than they do anyone else. So I'm putting them on this side. Agent Holden and Agent Mac. They are what is called sniffers, right? And sniffers are basically people that whatever they touch, they can bring it up to their face and like smell it, and they're basically able to know who's touched it, who's had it, where they're at now, things like that. So it's a very useful ability, especially if you're like a secret agent and you're looking for people, right? And they say that they were able to find Nick using an old toothbrush he left behind 10 years ago. What? Like, their abilities are very useful and seeming very powerful. They seem to be very powerful, right? So, and it seems like Nick has been alone for a long time. He hasn't had company really because he's a loser. um, but yeah, uh, they are looking around asking questions, and Nick is like, if you really want something to sniff, I have some old used toilet paper. Which he's so sassy. The sassy man epidemic is real, and it started in 2009 with Nick Grant. Like, come on. He's so funny. But the sniffs basically are like, whatever, you're no help because you've been alone clearly. So they grab one of his toothbrushes, and Agent Mac, I believe, is the one that's like, was like, just in case we need to find you. It was one of them. Doesn't matter. But yeah, and then they leave. And then Nick's like, he's like, oh, I gotta leave. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go because the division, they work for division, clearly know where he's at now, and yeah, he needs to frickin' get out of there. Yeah, but before Nick could leave, he gets a phone call. He picks it up, and it's a young female voice, Miss Cassie, um, who says, "Open up, Nick." And Nick goes to the door, and Nick hears a knock, goes to the door. He doesn't see anything. He's like, "Oh, what's happening?" He opens the door, and the reason why he doesn't see anything is because she's too short to be seen through the door. And then he opens it up, and he's like, "Oh, hello." She basically pushes her way in, goes to his fridge, and she's looking for something. She's like, "Where is it? Where is it?" Ha! She pulls out some chicken, like a chicken wing or something, and finds some hot sauce to put on it. And Nick's like, "What are you doing? Why are you in my house?" And she basically explains to him, if we team up, we can find $6 million together. That would solve a lot of Nick's problems. $6 million would solve a lot of people's problems, actually. So they decide to go get ramen together. So they go downstairs to get ramen, and Nick orders in Cantonese. She's like, "You speak Chinese?" He's like, "Cantonese." Okay, sassy, we got it. um, and Cassie basically explains the position that they're in. She's like, I know you're a second generation mover, and just like me, I'm a second generation watcher. So they have the same powers as their parents. Cassie's mom is a watcher, and and Nick's dad was a mover. So it seems like the powers are inherited, but you'll see soon that not always. The same powers are not always inherited. Um, so she's trying to explain to him what's happening. She's like, Division is looking for a case, or like they're looking for a girl. Um, and then Nick is like, I don't want anything to do with the Division. And he gets up and he's about to leave. But before he can leave, he Cassie has a vision. She's like very much Raven Simone, very much Raven Simone, and she's like, the Chinese are here. They found us. The Chinese. Who are the Chinese? You are in China. What do you mean? Turns out the Chinese are Mr. Man. His name is Pop father on the wiki, and Lollipop Girl, love her, and Lollipop's girl's brothers. So that's the father. It's her and her brothers that they're there, right? And they're what is known as bleeders. They they basically have the ability to do a supersonic scream and cause like a lot of damage to people, and things and objects, right? It doesn't just affect people. Like these powers affect the physical world just as much as they affect the mental world. So they decide to run. They're just like, we got to get out of here. The bleeders are going to attack us. They scream at them and they like destroy like a bunch of fish tanks. You see the fish exploding inside the fish tanks, and they're just running here and there, running, trying to get away from them, right? And then Miss Girl, right here, Lollipop Girl, has a vision. She's not a bleeder. She's a watcher. So that's what I mean when I said it doesn't seem like the powers are always inherited. It seems like the ability to be psychic is inherited, but then the power itself is more like on the individual? So it seems kind of just coincidental that like Nick is also a mover and Cassie is also a watcher, but maybe there's like some type of connection there. It could be a little bit of both. Or maybe it's like a regressive gene type thing, for certain abilities. But she has a vision and she's like, the big tank, the big tank. Um, so she sees them running past the big tank. So she gets her brothers to scream at the big tank, basically exploding it and having all the water wash Nick and Cassie off their feet. So they're on the ground now, and the bleeders are able to catch up to them. They're screaming at them. Nick uses his powers to telekinetically push Cassie away, and he's like, "Get out of here, run!" And the bleeders are just screaming like up the wazoo, like they're trying to kill Nick. But then Miss Girl has another vision, and she's like, the girl disappears in her vision, and she's like, "If he dies, we lose the girl." So they're looking for her. This is the girl that they're looking for, and they are also looking for her is what it seems. Um, so yeah, and then they leave him alone and they leave, and yeah, and we cut to Kira. This is Kira. We love Kira. She wakes up in some docks, seeming like very lost and very confused. She walks towards like a fishing boat, fishing house type thing, and she sees Wu Chiang, I think is the way you pronounce his name. This man right here he has really grimy fingernails. I don't know why. They never explain why he has disgusting fingernails, but he just does. Putting him right there. Putting him right there. And Kira walks in to a fishing boat, fishing house thing, and walks up to a mirror, and she sees writing on the mirror, and it says Nick on it, right? Which is kind of confusing. It says Nick 4100. And what she decides to do, since it was written with lipstick on the mirror, she takes lipstick that she finds, the lipstick that is in front of the mirror, she picks it up and she writes Nick, which is seemingly to see who wrote it, seeing that the way that she wrote Nick is the same way Nick is written, which I would have never thought about doing if I woke up like without memory, which is what happened. She basically wakes up without having her memory. She wrote it. She wrote that, but I would have never thought about doing that, which just shows how smart Kira is. Like she's a thinker. She's a thinker. She's not a dumb girl. She's a smart girl. You know. And then cuts back to Cassie. Cassie, she's walking around the city alone, looking for Nick, and she finds Nick, with, some. She's just laying on a bed, and she's like, oh, he seems really hurt. And then she turns around with a pew pew, and she's like, I know you're there. And a lady pops out of the shadow, who we find is Teresa Stowe, I think is her name. Teresa Stowe. Her right here. Miss her hair, I don't know what is happening. I don't it's kind of cute. It's kind of cute, but it's a choice. Just saying, it's a choice. So she's right there, Miss Girl. I'm actually gonna reposition some of these. Let's put them randomly because I actually do have a lot more space left. But I wasn't gonna have much space. But yeah, Miss Teresa. She pops out. Teresa is what we call a stitch. She is able to touch someone and heal them of their wounds, right? That seems like a very, very useful ability. I don't know. It might be one that I would want, to be honest, right? But Teresa, as she puts her hands on Nick, and we see like his back is all messed up and like red. So it seems like the bleeder's powers work not only on your ears, like they kind of like mess up your body too with like supersonic like frequencies or something, right? So Teresa is touching him on his back, and she's like pushing his back and pushing it in different directions, and it looks like his bones are shifting underneath. And while she's doing that, she's kind of like mocking Cassie, and she's just like, I heard Division has your mother so drugged up she can barely hold a spoon. And yeah, she seems to not like Cassie's mom at all, but it seems like they do have a history, and she does owe Cassie's mom a favor, is what she says. She's like, I owe you a favor. This is the favor, Buki. Um, so yeah. And then she does that, she heals him, and then she leaves. And then Cassie just stays there waiting for Nick to wake up. And once Nick wakes up, she gives him a lotus flower. A lotus flower. Flower. And what did Nick's dad say? He said, one day a girl is going to find you and give you a flower, right? And you got to trust that girl. And you got to go along with what she says. That's what she says, because if you help her, you help us all. That's what he said. I should have probably said that before, but whatever. Um, so this convinces Nick. He's like, he's like, my dad is basically telling me I have to team up with you. And then Cassie basically says, so the vision that I had about us is that we're gonna die. Like, and then Nick's like, great, that's great, awesome. So if we go up against the vision, we will die. So yeah. So this is a suicide mission, basically. Okay, so cut back to Kira. She's walking through the streets of Hong Kong when we see who is in the same street as her, following her. The agents. They were able to catch up to Kira. They were able to find her. I don't know how, but they're sniffs, so I don't know. They probably found some of her toilet paper. Um, and yeah, they were able to find her, and they're just like, "You're coming with us." And Kira's like, "Fine, whatever, let's go." So they're in the car driving somewhere. She's tied up, her mouth is covered, and Kira uses her push abilities on him, the bald agent, right? And she he's like, stay out of my mind, stay out of my mind, don't do that. He's very angry. It seemed like it's a very uncomfortable feeling to be pushed. Probably seems like someone is in your head, so they probably are able to sense it. Um, which honestly I do like, because I feel like that gives you a little bit more security knowing that someone is doing the power on you, but that might just be like a lack of skill on her part. We don't know yet. Honestly, we don't really know ever. But then the other agent is like, what does she want? And he's like, she wants to use the restroom. So they stop to use the restroom. They go to the bathroom together. He follows her into the bathroom. They go together to make sure she doesn't like run away and stuff. Um, and Kira does something that I just love. I just love. I just love. She's just so cool. Her power is so cool. She's like, she goes, "You're a good man, agent. It's so sad what happened to your brother." And then she was like, and then he's like, "I don't have a brother, sweetheart. I don't have a brother." And then she's just like, no, but you do. And she's behind a stall, by the way. It seems like you need to have eye contact with this person because she looks through the stall's like little gap to look at him. And she's like, no, you do have a brother. And he was murdered. And then she's like, whatever. And he's like gearing up to get like something to inject her with. And she's just like, and you know who did it. And we see her eye like opening up a little bit, like the pupil of her eye just getting a little bit dilated. And then we see a vision in the guy's mind, basically what's happening, what she's pushing into him. And as she's saying, and you know who did it. And who did she make him see killed her brother? The other agent. So she's basically making him think the other agent killed her brother. So he goes out into the coffee shop, which is where they stopped, right? They stopped at a coffee shop. The other guy's getting coffee, and he goes out, takes out his pew pew, and boom from behind. And then he's like, he snaps out of it. He's like, wait a minute. He goes back into the bathroom and he's like, you B word, I'm gonna kill you. And he tries to kill Kira, trying to take her out. But Kira, she's that girl, and she takes like she is beating him up, she's punching him, she's doing stuff, and she grabs one of the like slippery floor signs and hits him over the head, knocking him out. And before, actually no, hitting him over the head, knocking him to the ground, and then she kicks him unconscious. And then she walks out of the building. She walks out of the bathroom into the main coffee shop, and she grabs the coffee that the other guy was getting. So in my mind, I like to think that Kira also pushed the other guy to get a coffee that she liked and that she wanted. Um, because this was her plan the whole time, like since she got captured, kill them. Which I love Kira. Okay, so he's gone. He's bye bye. And so then we cut to these three. So Agent Carver, Victor, and Agent Mac um, are discussing what happened. And Agent Mac is like, I promise I won't let her push me again. And he's just like, are you willing to bet your life on that? Agent Carver is like, are you willing to bet your life on that? And he's like, yes, my thoughts are my own, stuff like that. And Agent Carver's like, well, okay, I just want to make sure because I don't want you to shoot me over some imaginary sister I slept with. And then Agent Mac is like, I don't have a sister? Like he's he's confused about his whole life now. He's scared. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just a little guy. He's just a little guy who doesn't know what's going on. Um and then he's like, yeah, whatever, I can do it. My thoughts are my own, you know? And then Agent Carver is like, okay, then take your pew pew and pull the trigger. Put it in your mouth and pull the trigger. And then Agent Mac is like, what? What do you mean? And then he said, don't worry. Don't worry. You made sure there were no bullets in it. It's empty. And Agent Carver, who is a pusher, pushes him. His eyes turn completely black, not just dilated like Kira's eyes do. They're like even the whites in his eyes are completely black. So it shows that he's like a lot stronger of a pusher than Kira is, right? And he basically makes him like pull the trigger on himself. He's gone. He's dead. R.I.P. to him. Another agent down. So yeah, another agent down. R.I.P. King. You will not be missed. Actually, they're both down. The two nasty sniffs that are just smelling everything. Ugh, don't like them. They're gone. Okay, so cut to Nick and Cassie. Nick and Cassie are in a cab. Cassie is drawing, she's doing her thing. Before, when they were eating ramen, she was talking about how, like, she is not a she's not that good at her ability, and also she sucks at drawing because like the way a lot of these watchers keep track of their visions is they draw them. So kind of slay. They're all artists. um, and Cassie basically draws a picture of like it's kind of like a sign. I'm pretty sure it's a sign where there's like a lady in a martini glass. Um, and Nick is like, "Oh, I know where this is," and it's a casino because Nick is a chronic gambler who loves to gamble. And then also Cassie shows him a picture of uh, an olive, which she corrects an olive. Nick thinks it's an olive, but Cassie corrects him, and she's like, "It's a bead." And then she's like, "Don't you see? It's like shimmering and shiny. It's a shimmering, shiny bead." And then Nick's like, "Okay, yeah, you suck. You're really bad at drawing." Um, so they go to the casino, right? Where they meet Hook. This is Hook. Love Hook. He's great. So he is what is known as a shifter. And what is a shifter? So a shifter is someone who can shift the appearance of things, right? I don't know if they can use it on living creatures because we only see them using it on inanimate objects, right? So he's able to basically make a playing card look like any other playing card. He can say like, "Oh, this is a Queen of Hearts." Boom! Now it's a like uh, Queen of Hearts. Yeah, yeah, Queen of Hearts. And now this is like a King of Hearts now, or like King of Spades, whatever cards are. I don't know that much about cards. Bad example. But yeah, they can basically shift the appearance of things. I don't think they can use it on living creatures though. And yeah, so Hook, we see him using his abilities to impress a lady by turning the cards into different cards, whatever card she says, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's so impressive." And then, she goes away. She walks away. She's gone. Because he sees Nick and Cassie walk up to him and he's like, "Oh, old friends." And he ushers over a lady and she's like, "Oh, get me some drinks for them." He pulls out a 500 blank. There's like a 500 on a blank dollar, a blank money note or whatever, and he's able to shift it to look like actual like Chinese money currency. And I'm pretty sure that's like how he makes his money and how he does a lot of his things, which when you think about it is kind of messed up because wouldn't the workers get in trouble after people find blank money notes like in the register? That seems like really messed up, actually. I don't know if I would use my shifter powers like that if I had shifter powers. Um, but yeah, so Hook basically worked for Division for a while, and he explains this to Cassie that he worked for Division. Division basically fired him one day and was like, "Never use your powers again. If you do, we'll find you and we'll, take care of you." But then one day he decides to shift one more time to get just a present for his wife or something, right? He was probably shifting money to get her a present. And then later, like I think like weeks later or days later, he finds out that his wife died. He's like, "My wife died." And then he was like, "In a car accident." And then he says, "My wife doesn't drive." So I feel like that's insinuating that his wife was pushed to drive by someone, or just like another pusher in the division, because that just shows how powerful they are. They can make people disappear. They can make people die very easily if you are not on their side. So the division is very dangerous. So Hook basically tells them that if they want to find the girl, which is what they're looking for, the girl and the suitcase, then they should go to Emily Wu, right? Cassie shows him a picture of the bead that she drew. Well, not a picture, a drawing of the bead that she drew, um, and telling him yeah, this is what we're looking for. And then he reaches over to like a lady's ear, one of the workers' ears, to take her earring. And then he gives her like, the fake money. And he's just like, for you. And she's just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. Because you gave me money. And he like shifts it to look like the bead. And then Cassie's like, no, it doesn't look like that, just, a little bit rounder. And he shifts it again. And then, that's how it is. Okay. And he tells them to go to Emily who is Miss Girl right here. Miss Girl right there, who is a sniff. And we cut to her doing her job. She basically works as a sniff, um, using her power to see if people are cheating, and see where people are at, probably trying to find people and stuff like that. We cut to her with this man who's like, is she happy? He's talking about his wife, and Emily takes a hairbrush that he gave her, sniffs it, and is it basically sees her on a boat, with a man just drinking champagne, and they're very happy and they're just smiling and everything. And then she tells the man, I don't think she's coming back. She's on a boat. And then he's like, really? Are you sure? And then she said, a very big boat. And then he looked very disappointed. Oh, R.I.P. to him. R.I.P. to him. That's so funny. So then we hear a knock on the door of Emily Who's establishment, and it is Nick and Cassie. Nick and Cassie have arrived, to meet Emily right here, and Emily is basically like, "No, I'm not going to help you. Like, I don't get wrapped up in division nonsense. Like, yeah, that's none of my business." They show her the beach. She's like, "No, I'm not helping. Whatever." And then Cassie pulls out her thing and she's like, pulls out her notebook and she shows it to Nick, and Nick is like, oh, okay. And then he says, well, you are gonna help us. And then he says, yeah, whatever this girl has written on her notebook seems to be coming true. And they show her a picture of the poster behind her, and the time, and it is a minute away from Cassie's vision. Right? There's a clock in the room, and it's literally a minute away from being what Cassie wrote on her book. And once the time switches, Emily's like, oh. And she thinks about it, and then she's like, "Fine, I'll help you." So they convinced her by that, because I'm pretty sure it's basically, he's like she's a watcher. She knows you're gonna help us, so you might as well just help us, which is kind of funny because, like, would it have come true if they wouldn't have told her she was a watcher? But it doesn't matter because it's like predestined. But is it predestined? Like, we don't know. They say it's not predestined, but it kind of seems like it's low key predestined. Um, So yeah, Emily pulls out a bag of beads, and she's just like, Division has been spreading this all over the city. Been giving it to any sniff that has been, any sniff that they can. And then Emily sniffs it, uses her power, and it was actually a bracelet that Kira right here was wearing that fell off of her, right? Yeah, when she was fighting the other guy, and they've been spreading it around to every sniff that they could find. Um, so yeah, and Emily basically tells them where to find her. They said pier something. It's like a number. So they go to the pier, and we cut to Kira at the pier walking up to some randos, and she's just like, "Do you speak any English? Do you speak any English?" And they're just like, "Oh no, we don't speak English." And then she's like, I don't, it doesn't really matter." And she uses her powers to push them into thinking that they're old friends. And she's just like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." They're speaking Chinese. She's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, it's been a long time, I should have called, whatever." And then she's about to get in the car with them. But also, I like this because it seems like the pusher's powers don't really, it doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter, um like, yeah, it just doesn't matter. It's kind of the pusher makes you feel or it makes you see whatever they want you to think or whatever they want you to feel, but it's not like a one to one like brain reading or like brain manipulation type thing. It's like they don't have to know that you speak the same language. It's kind of like a universal power, I would say, which is kind of pretty cool because that kind of opens up a lot of opportunities. Like if you're a pusher, you could have one-way conversations with people, like push into them things that you want them to know, maybe even push into them like languages because you're giving them memories. So I think that's really cool, the idea of that. So Kira's about to get in the car, and then she sees Nick and Cassie from far away, and she decides not to get in the car. She pulls out a pew pew, right? And she shoots at Nick and Cassie. She shoots at them, and they're like, "Whoa, whoa, what's happening?" And then Nick is like, "Kira, Kira, is that you?" Nick and Kira know each other. Nick and Kira know each other. They Kira is furious at him. She's like, Nick, you never looked for me. And she's like, I thought you just left. I thought you just left. And then she's like, Division took me and you never looked for me. You didn't find me. And Nick was like, I looked for you. And then she was like, but you didn't find me. So she's very hurt. She's hurt that Nick wasn't able to find her. Even though it's not his fault, like Division is a very big organization. Like he probably did not have the resources to find her. So it also seems like the connection of psychics, like a lot of them know each other because I don't know how they know each other, but it's kind of interesting that like they're able to find each other. Maybe it's like a predestined type thing because watchers are involved and maybe shit like that happens. But yeah, it's kind of cool. So Kira, Nick, and Cassie decide to all team up together because Nick is like, I can't believe you're the girl that everyone is looking for. Like this is kind of crazy. Um, and now it makes sense why Nick is so important and why he's like one of the main ones because this is all connected. They're all connected, and Cassie's mom too, because Cassie's mom seems to be putting this plan together, right? She knew Kira needed to escape, and she knew that Nick is special because Nick's dad was like, I know you're special, right? And something that I didn't mention before, um, Emily said to Cassie, you remind me a lot of someone I used to know. So Cassie's mom has been orchestrating this thing for a long time because Emily, Cassie, Nick, Kira, and Hook are all connected because Hook is friends with Nick. Kira is dating Nick, was dating Nick. Cassie's mom knew Emily, and Emily knows Hook. So like this is a big web. This is a big web. Miss Girl knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. So they decide to get a shadow. What is a shadow? So a shadow is basically someone who can hide from sniffs and sometimes from watchers, right? So depending on how powerful they are. So they get a shadow, and the shadow is Pinky. Pinky. I love Pinky. He's great. He's a great man. He's awesome. Put him right there. I don't know if I showed him well. Show him again. Show him again. One more time for Pinky. Pinky. But yeah, he's great. So he's a shadow. So it's stated, and it is stated once they're all together, that Kira knew Nick and they met at Coney Island. Like they were together. It was beautiful. That was the first place he ever said I love you to her. And that's so sweet. So they go to a hotel room and the shadow's like, yo, okay, like as long as she stays near me, she will be okay. She will be protected. Everything will be fine, right? So Cassie leaves. Cassie does not like Kira, probably because Kira just shot at them like the second she saw them. So Cassie is not a Kira fan. She calls her Miss Trouble, which is kind of cute, kind of a cute little nickname. I hope they become friends. But yeah, she leaves to do some stuff. I forgot why. But basically, yeah, they're just alone. So it's Pinky, Kira, and Nick in the hotel room together. And Pinky is like, I can see where this is going. I'm gonna leave. And then Nick is like, where are you going? And then he's like, it's fine. I can chat to her just fine from outside of the room. So Nick is just like in the room, he's pacing as Kira is like washing herself off inside of the bathroom. She's kind of looking rough. She does not look that good. Um, and she pushes Nick to come into the room, to come into the bathroom by making him think there was a fire, right? And he busts in. He's just like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had a feeling that there was a fire in here." And then he was like, "You did that." And then she's like, "Yeah." And then she's like, "If you don't like it, then push back." And then they have their moment, and they do their thing. They do their thing, and it's fun and quirky and great. And after Nick and Kira have their moment, Nick decides to go to Carver, and just try to end it because he's like, I'm tired of this. I just want this to be over. Like we have Kira. We don't know anything about the case. Like whatever. Goodbye. So Nick tries to take out Carver. He has his pew pews, and he's able to like float them in the air and like he basically floats them behind him, right? And he goes to like this Chinese restaurant where Carver and his mover are at. His mover is Victor. Victor is a mover. Um, and he basically like sneakily uses the pew pews and lowers them to like go against you know Carver's head and Victor's head, right? And then they have like a whole conversation, and then Nick realizes he's told by Carver that Kira is dying, like that the medicine or like the injection that they gave her is basically making her power stronger, but at the same time it's killing her, right? And then he was like, has her blood turned black yet? And have her insides started like putrefying or whatever yet? And then Nick kind of thinks about it, and then he realizes, yeah, like she was like kind of bleeding black like before. That's why she didn't look so good. So they have like their little thing. They have their little tussle together. Nick and Victor start fighting the two movers, right? But Victor is a lot more skilled than Nick is, and he's able to, win against Nick. Basically, he's able to turn the guns against Nick, and yeah, he basically wins. And then cut to Cassie meeting Carver. She was sitting outside when Carver just, walks out of like an alleyway, and they're just like, oh shoot. She's like, oh shoot, I did not see this coming. Like I did not know he was going to be here. And she's very scared, and she's like, please don't make me do anything to myself. Please don't make me hurt myself. And then Carver's just like, I'm not going to hurt you. um I like this future. He's like, I have hundreds of watchers watching this very moment, watching this very timeline, and I like the way that it's going. I like the way that it's going to end. Um, and then Cassie is like, well, it will change if you kill him. And she's basically able to stop Carver and Victor from killing Nick by telling him that if he kills him, then everything will change. So Nick is alive once again, just because of sheer luck, to be honest, just sheer luck. Cut to everyone in the same room together. Everyone in the same room. Everyone here in the same room except These bad guys, these bad guys are not in the same room, and it's so slay. It's so awesome. I haven't really talked about the relationship that Cassie and Lollipop Girl have together. They're pretty much rivals because Cassie is a watcher and the other girl is also a watcher, and her brothers, the Lollipop Girl's brothers, basically make fun of her, being like, is she better than you, like is she better than you? And she's just like, no, she's not better than me, like I'm a better watcher than her. She still dies, she's gonna die, I'm gonna kill her, stuff like that. um, and Kira and Carver, both pushers, have that dynamic, and then Nick and Victor, both movers, they have that dynamic as well. So these are their these are their counterparts, and then everyone in the middle is just all the other characters, right? We have the two agents that are dead. Then we have Hook. We have Teresa. We have Emily. We have the guy with the nice fingernails, forgot his name. We have Lollipop Father, and then we have Pinky, the shadow. Okay, so slay. Everything is awesome. So they decide to make a plan together, right? They're just like, dude, we got to do this. We have to take out Division because Division is literally the main problem for most of these people. Division has done all of them dirty, every single one. Division took Pinky's Pinky away, which is why he's called Pinky. Emily is, basically constantly watched by Division because she's a sniff, and Division needs sniff. So she's not really free to do whatever she wants. She will be tracked down. Then we have Hook, whose wife was killed by Division. Nick's dad died because he was killed by Agent Carver, and yeah, Kira was basically used as a guinea pig. So they all have beef with Division. So they got to do something. They got to do something, right? So the plan is Nick is going to write down instructions for everyone to do, and then he's going to erase his memory using the wiper guy that Kira used before, right? He writes down everything for everyone, and he gives Kira her envelope, and he basically says, um, open this when you begin to doubt the truth. And then they go, and then they go. So then we get back. Okay, then we see what everyone's little things are, right? Cassie has a vision of Kira's shoe, and it turns out that Kira actually had a key in her shoe, right? So before Kira leaves, Cassie's able to get the key from her shoe. Then they give it to Emily, so then she can use her sniff powers to find out what the key is for, right? She's able to peel off a sticker on the key that says 4100. 4100. That is what Kira wrote on the mirror after before she got wiped. Nick 4100 is what she wrote. I'm getting to the plan, and it's literally this is the plan that they come up with, and I it's so hard for me to explain. I've explained it like 50 billion times. Okay, so basically this is the plan. Nick writes them a bunch of letters, the whole group a bunch of letters, because all of them have been scorned by the Division, or are being watched by the Division, or have been hurt by the Division. So they all team up, and they're just like, I don't even care about the case anymore. I just want the Division to be done. Like I just want it to be over. So Nick writes a bunch of letters for all of them to follow instructions, and then he erases his memory, right? Using the guy who erases Kira's memory, right? So that's what happens. And Miss Girl, Lollipop Girl, right here, loses connection, because her powers are basically more about like people specifically, like intentions, while Cassie seemed to be more like broad scope, like what things will be happening. So she's more people oriented, she's more event oriented, you know? And then Miss Girl tells her father that she's lost connection, and then she gets slapped for it. So, yeah. And after this, she's basically done. She basically realizes I'm treated horribly in this family. And it kind of seems like she's treated that way because, for one, she's a woman and sexism. And for two, she's not a bleeder like her brothers. She is a watcher, which they probably have something to say about that, which is like she's a watcher. Like that's an awesome ability to have. It might not be lethal, but it's still pretty cool. Um, so yeah. Okay. So the plan begins. So Hook is able to get the briefcase from the place where it was hidden. It turns out it was being shadowed by this old elderly woman whose power is something that they've never seen before. She's very strong because she's able to shadow an entire building, which they say is something that they shouldn't be able to do, right? And she's also able to work against watchers, which is something shadows usually can only do for a very short period of time, before the watcher's abilities basically overpower the shadow's ability, right? Um, so yeah, Hook is able to get the briefcase and bring it back, and Kira basically decides to go with. Well, Nick tells Kira that she has to go with Division because she's dying. So she goes with them, and yeah, that's how it starts going. So Nick opens his note and it basically says to go home, right? He goes home with the case, and he gets ambushed by Teresa, the Stitcher, right? And a Stitch's powers can be, taken back. So Nick basically goes back to how hurt he was when he was found by the bleeders. But she basically says, "The Lord giveth," and it's implied that she's, the Lord taketh away, stuff like that. It's kind of funny. Um, so Nick is on his feet, and while he's on his feet, the Chinese, walking through his door, and Teresa's like, "There's the case. Leave me my money. Leave me my money." And yeah, and then they were about to kill him, but then Teresa stops them and is like, "You promised he'd die slowly." So yeah, for some reason she has a vendetta against Nick. I don't know why. They never explain it, but she just does not like him. So yeah, she's talking to him, and she's like, yeah, blah blah blah. This she's trash talking, and she's like, "You lost, whatever." But then we see that Cassie actually was there before Nick was there, right? And she had a vision that Nick would need his. She hid his under his bed, taped, and Nick was able to use his powers to basically levitate his um, and hold Teresa hostage, telling her to get him on his feet. Right? She heals him again, getting him on his feet, and then um, you know, I think knocks her out or something because Teresa is not there anymore. She's gone. It's over. Goodbye. So I'm taking her off the board. Goodbye, Teresa. Eat shit. um, but yeah. So cut to the Chinese selling their suitcase to what I believe is the Chinese government. So they're different organizations. The Chinese like Lolly family, because the Lollipop Girl, seem to be like a mafia type thing, kind of Yakuza esque. While like Chinese government is working for them, so then they can, because it's a Chinese division, because they said that many other countries set up their own division. So this is probably the Chinese version of division. So yeah, and they open up the suitcase, throw the contents of the suitcase to the Chinese government, and then the guy who catches it, when he catches it, the bottle turns back, the contents of the case turn back into what they actually are, and it is a bottle of soy sauce. Womp womp. They get mad. They look back at the case. The case turned from black to red. It's not the same case. It's the wrong case. And then they get mad. The Chinese government get mad, and they're just like, "I thought you guys were reliable, but I guess not," and they leave, right? And then Miss Lollipop Girl. This is after the slap, by the way. After the slap, she's like, she takes She takes her notebook, rips out a page, puts it on the table, and it's, probably one of her visions telling it's her vision telling them where they can find the actual case. And then she said, "Here, maybe that'll make him love you." And boom, she's gone. She leaves, and then decides to call Cassie. No, she leaves, and Cassie calls her, and she's just like, "Did you like the present?" And then Lolly Girl is like, I still know you still die. And she's just like, I do you want to know what the tiger means? And then Cassie hangs up on her because she's like, fuck you, bitch. Like, shut up. But yeah, Miss Girl. So for some reason, Cassie dies due to a tiger, and Lolly Girl knows this. And yeah, she's gonna find her and she's gonna kill her. She's gonna find a way to do it. Um, so then cut to Kira and Carver and Victor in a hotel room together. Um, they are trying to convince her to take an immunosuppressant because she will die if she doesn't. And she's been the only success of the experiment so far. So they really need her to live. Because if she lives, then it's proof that they can make them stronger and they can make them into super soldiers. But they said she's like no, I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. And they're arguing, and then bombshell drops when Agent Carver takes out takes out an identification card and says, "You can trust us, Agent Hollis." Agent Hollis. Agent Kira Hollis of Division. She's a division agent. She's been a division agent the whole time. And she thinks back on it. She says, Carver says, "How do you think you were able to elude us this whole time?" And then she thinks back on it. When she was fighting the guy in the bathroom, she had some skills. She was like, a normal person would not just be able to fight off a division agent like that. And then when she saw Nick and Cassie, the way she was shooting at them was very much like she knew how to handle it very well. All signs that she is a division agent. So, and then cut to Nick and Cassie. Nick and Cassie, they have a little heart to heart, big papa, little girl, like papa daughter relationship type shit. And Cassie's like, I'm actually really afraid. I really don't want to die. Like I know I pretend that I'm okay and I pretend that I'm stronger than I am, but I am terrified. And Nick is like, okay, this is what you have to do. Trust me. Can you trust me? And Cassie's like, yes, I'll trust you. He says, he says, um, just start walking, and once you find a place that you feel safe, just stay there and just lay low. Just don't make decisions other watchers can track, and just keep walking and keep walking. And so she decides to do that. So Cassie stumbles into a restaurant where Lollipop Girl is actually waiting for her. Lollipop Girl is actually waiting for her. So there's a little scene where you see behind Cassie that the containers of like either food or like soy sauce stuff like that has like tigers on it. So this is where Cassie dies. Um, and then we cut to the girl, to the lollipop girl right over here. She has a pew pew, and she points it at Cassie, and she's like, "You made me look like a fool in front of my family." And she's very angry with Cassie. um and Cassie turns around, and she's just like, "Okay, bitch, just do it, come on, just do it." And then from the shadows, guess who appears from the shadows? The wiper appears from the shadows, putting his hands over Miss Lollipop Girl's fucking face, right? And basically erasing her memory of everything. And Cassie is like, "Don't worry, you won't remember a thing. You won't remember a thing." Like She gagged her. She gagged her. I'm sorry, she gagged her. So Lollipop Girl is gone. That's it. That's it for her. And I'm just gonna go on a little tangent. Um, I feel like Lollipop Girl losing all memory of her family was probably the best thing that could have happened for her. I mean, she can see the future, and her family definitely just like uses the hell out of her, even though they don't appreciate her for like, how powerful she actually is. And honestly, like being someone who can see the future, especially as well as she can, um, honestly, like having no background, having no memory is probably like super, super liberating, And then you don't have to think about your past ever again. You can just focus on the future and go on from there. So I have a feeling that she's doing just fine now. She's living her best life, probably left China, or I don't know, moved maybe somewhere else, just away from these randos because her visions are probably telling her, get out, like leave, you gotta go. So yeah, and then, but before Cassie leaves, the Wiper, she turns around and the Wiper tells her, um, "Your mother is very proud." So her mother has been watching her like do this since the jump. Like her mom has been planning this forever. Yeah. So her mother is very much like knows what she's doing. Um, yeah. So Nick decides to make a deal with Division, um, because he wants Kira back, and now that he actually has the real drug with him, he has something to offer. Because before all of the Division wanted the cure, but they couldn't find it, so they wanted the next best thing, which was Kira, right? Because if the cure falls into the wrong hands, then that's it for them, right? So yeah, so now that Nick has the cure, he's like, okay, give me back Kira, so then we can all be, safe and happy and have a great day. So they meet up at the building that was being shadowed by the main shadow, right? Um, and it slays. It slays. It slays. It slays. It has like a bunch of bamboo everywhere because I guess that's how they reinforce buildings while they're building them in China, which I think is really cool. I like the visuals of it. I think it's awesome. Uh, but yeah, they're there, and Nick is basically like, just give me Kira, you can have the cure and we can go, right? But Kira pops out in this snazzy little like suit type thing, like pantsuit type thing. She looks really good. It's like a suit type dress. She looks great. And then she goes up to Nick and she's like looking very much divisionified. She's like, do you remember the first time you said I love you? And then he's just like, yeah, like of course. And then she's just like, we were in Coney Island, underneath something, and you kissed me, and then you said I love you, and then she said that wasn't real. None of it was real. I met you for the first time when I shot you. What? 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 And then Miss Girl goes on to say, we didn't meet on Coney Island. No one's been to Coney Island. Basically implying that Coney Island is like something that pushers have made up. Like that they just push people and being like, oh yeah, we were at Coney Island. I went to Coney Island this, Coney Island that. But there is no Coney Island. Like there is no Coney Island. It's probably a division facility in New York where Coney Island is. Huh? Crazy. So they basically overpower Nick, beat him up. They take the case and they put him in the trunk of a car. And they just like punch him. Like Victor just punches him with his powers. Oh, by the way, I don't think I mentioned it. When they punch each other, when movers are able to punch people, they can like reinforce it with their power, making their punches stronger. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh my god! And they also make this cute little like rainbow shimmer effect every time they use their powers. I love it. Okay, so Carver gets the case, um, but then the Chinese show up wanting it, right? Victor is the main muscle, and Carver's basically like, Victor, get us a way out of here. And then they start fighting, right? They start shooting, and Victor is able to like push away the bullets or like block the bullets with his powers. Um, while Kira is able to use her powers to take control of soldiers and make them do whatever she wants. So they basically become her armed guards, right? And as they're fighting, Victor is able to like push people away and like throw them away, throw them out of the building. And one of the people falls all the way down out of the building on top of the car where Nick is at, basically opening the trunk, letting him get out, right? So then the face off of the century, it's Nick and Victor face off together and they fight each other. Victor is a lot better at fighting than Nick is, and he has more skill with his power. But by the grace of God, Nick is able to, overpower him for a minute, and he's like beating him up. Um, and it's pretty cool. Like Victor is throwing like a bunch of like powder around and like throwing bamboo at people and like blocking bullets, and it's really cool. Very good action scene. Um, but then they get interrupted by Lollipop Girls father and her brothers who use their powers to like scream at them, um, and basically like stopping Nick from basically like knocking out Victor, right? And Nick is covering his ears and trying to stop his brain from literally turning into mush. Uh, Victor was so beat up that he wasn't able to like block his ears at the time, and Victor dies. That's how Victor dies. Nick doesn't take him out. It was just the other guys that took him out. So yeah. So Victor has bit the dust. R.I.P. King. R.I.P. He barely said anything. He barely spoke in the whole movie. Kind of funny. Um, but yeah. But one thing is, before Victor died, before he got killed, he was able to pierce the son of the main guy of the lollipop father with bamboo, right? And he pierces his neck and he dies, and then the dad sees his dead son and he screams for the first time in the entire movie, and his powers are strong, like very strong, so strong that he's taking down like the bamboo like around him. Like it's not completely falling down, but it's starting to. And at that moment, while he's screaming, Nick uses his power to telekinetically make the bamboo, all of it, fall on Lollipop Father. So he dies, and that's how he dies. Okay. And then we finally have the main face off, Nick and Carver. Nick and Carver. Nick and Carver. Nick basically has no chance against Carver. Carver is very, very, very strong. He's a really strong pusher. And also, Kira is working with Carver, and Kira, with the serum in her body, is probably an even stronger pusher than Carver at this point. We haven't really, she's pretty much just using the soldiers to as armor, like the people with pew pews as armor, and it's so cool. You need to watch it. It's like the ones in front of her would get shot, and then immediately the ones behind her would come in front and cover her again. It was so cool, and like every time she moved, she would move this way, and they would move with her. It was everything. But basically, Nick goes up to her and he's like, "Stop! Like he's lying to you. Like we are together." And then Kira's like, "I don't believe you." Like she doesn't believe him. And then so Nick is able to get a hold of the serum, while Carver is just like, "Hey, Buki, you don't want to do that. Like, if anything, you injecting yourself, you would do me a favor because you would just die. Like, your power, like, Kira was a fluke. The fact that she survived, you know." And so Carver basically lets Nick inject himself, and Nick says, "Look at me." Like he's talking to Kira. He's like, "Look at me. I love you." And like, I know this is real, and you know this is real. And then he injects himself, and Nick dies. That's how Nick dies. R.I.P. King. R.I.P. King. So as they walk away, Kira and Carver walk away. Kira looks back at Nick one more time, and she's kind of sad. She feels sad for it because she thought she loved him, but you know, she kind of fooled herself by erasing her own memory. Um, so they go and they leave, and then cut to Cassie showing up with an umbrella. And earlier on, she told Nick that it would rain. So to make sure to carry an umbrella, but Nick doesn't have an umbrella, right? Cassie pulls up with her umbrella open, and there's like a little like drop of water that's falling from the ceiling, and then Nick wakes up and he's like, I thought you said it was gonna rain. And she said, I get things wrong sometimes, I told you. And then turns out that the vision that she was seeing of them dying wasn't real. It was like her getting it wrong. Nick was pretending to have killed himself by injecting himself with the serum. He asked Cassie, "What did I actually inject myself with?" And then she says, "Nine Dragon soy sauce." And then he's like, ew. Which honestly, I feel like injecting yourself with soy sauce is would probably do some damage because that is disgusting. But yeah, very funny. So Cassie basically says that they'll see Kira again. Everything will be fine. And then Nick is like, "How long do you think your mother has had this planned?" And then Cassie was like, "Probably before I was even born," which just goes to show how powerful Cassie's mom is, and hopefully how powerful Cassie will become later in the future. Because Nick's power did grow the more he used it, and Cassie just now started using her power because she's so young, you know? And cut to the final scenes of the movie. Probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie. It's so good. The ending of this is so good. So Kira finds her envelope while she's on a plane with Carver. Carver is sleeping. Um, and she opens her envelope and she remembers what Nick said. He said, open this when you start to doubt the truth, right? And she opens it, and well, guess what she finds? She finds a picture of her and Nick, and behind them it says Coney Island, and there's a roller coaster behind them too. They took a selfie together. Nick wasn't lying. Kira, I don't know if Kira is actually a division agent. I feel like that's like I feel like they're saying she's not, but honestly, she still could be. But the fact is, Kira and Nick did know each other, and Kira's like, bruh, what? What am I? What? Like my whole world. Like he pushed me. Like Carver pushed me into thinking that I didn't know Nick, right? And guess what Kira does? Kira pushes Carver. She says, she says, she opens her eyes. Her eyes turn fully black. She says, put your gun in your mouth. Pull the trigger. Cuts to black. And that's how it ends. 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 Carver is gone. Gone. Goodbye, Carver. Period. Cassie's still alive. Nick is still alive. Kira is still alive. And all of the main baddies are still alive, except, sorry, forgot to cross out Papa Lollipapa. But he's also gone. So, yeah. And that's the ending to Push. Very much, very much, very good, very awesome, very slay. I'm gonna have to edit this a lot because this is my first video, and I don't know, video etiquette. I don't know how to have video etiquette yet, but hopefully this comes out, watchable. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for this new journey that I'm going on, making review videos or whatever. Um, yeah, I hope you like it. I hope you stay tuned for other stuff that I might be doing. I'm thinking about doing um uh maybe Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, or another movie, or just another sorry, or just another movie, because I feel like movies would be easier than TV shows and would take a lot less time than TV shows. But yeah, pretty good. I think I did well. Give me a round of applause. Whee! Yay! Okay, yeah. Thank you for watching. Yeah. So see you around. Bye. Bye.